The sky is literally purple. The sky.
All right, everyone, welcome back. It is landfall day, October 9th, 2024. We are looking at Major Hurricane Milton. You're also looking at a weird anomaly that we've seen before coming from Antarctica. Oh, and did you happen to see the face of Hurricane Milton? Just like Hurricane Michael, which was the last Category 5 hurricane to strike Florida. I'm telling you, my friends, you cannot make this stuff up. This is super creepy, likely a phenomena, but just something else odd to add to this whole situation. If you follow my channel, you have seen this over and over again, the Antarctica anomaly with super viral online, 60 million views. And we were warning that we would see these types of anomalies during the hurricane season. And not only are we seeing them now, but we saw them with Helene, and we saw them leading up to that wild spring and tornado season we had leading up to this hurricane season. I have tons of information about this on my X channel for everyone to go research, but this is not normal. They've actually changed this chart in the past because it used to show these anomalies a lot more. And it's very odd because every time we see these types of pulses, it is always followed by some sort of major weather event. We validated this all spring and summer. As you can see on this chart here, related to each time the Antarctic anomaly popped up, there was a major weather event. All right, and now details for Milton as of right now. Now, Milton is still at 915 millibars in pressure, keeping it at a Category 5 hurricane, 155-mile-an-hour sustained winds, and we are less than 14 hours away from landfall, somewhere near Tampa, possibly a little south. Once again, as a visual here, the time frame has jumped forward, so we're looking at a sooner landfall Thursday, 2 a.m. So again, like I said, about 14 hours, which could also shift a little faster or slower between now and then. Not to mention, take a look at all the counties in red. The entire state of Florida almost looks like it's about to have a bullet go through it. Taking a look at the storm surge chart, you notice that the highest storm surge actually is a little south of where they show landfall. The reason for that is because of the counterclockwise spin of the storm, which is going to be pushing water into the coast south of the eye wall. And then if you look closely, north of the eye wall is going to be pulling water out. So the highest of water levels always is usually the southeastern quadrant of the hurricane, with the strongest winds usually being in the northeast quadrant. So hopefully that explains the storm surge part of this system. My friends, not only is this hurricane so abnormal that it's nearly one of a kind, and then to take the entire season as a whole and how rare it's been, and then to add these anomalies, the Antarctica anomaly, the secondary frequency anomaly we've been seeing, and now we're getting weird pareidolia faces inside these hurricanes. There's just way too many weird things going on to not question or at least look at more than once. And that is what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to get people to look outside the box, because that is where most of reality actually lies. All right, everybody, I'll have more updates throughout the day. Shout out to my cousin Mark in Southern Florida. Shout out to Grandma, who is getting moved out of her location. Shout out to Canada. And of course, shout out to everybody in the path of this storm. Please share this far and wide. I appreciate you all. See you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
So this is Tampa Bay. Look at this. All the water has run out of the bay. We just walked over here. Luis is shooting. We're along Bayshore Boulevard. Hopefully you can hear me. The water is gone. So it has been sucked out by Milton, which we suspected was going to happen. Our light's not bright enough to see how far out it goes, but I don't see any for as far as I can see. So this is Tampa Bay. Look at this. All the water has run out of the bay. We just walked over here. Luis is shooting. We're
going on here.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. Again, kind of the opposite of what most expect with these landfalling systems, do with the wind direction and whether you have onshore.
Hunter, hang with us for just a second. I want you to explain this. This is Tampa Bay. It looked like this hours before the storm made landfall. Water in the bay essentially just pulled out. Some people say it did the same thing before Hurricane Irma. That was back in 2017. So, Hunter, can you kind of explain exactly how this happens and what's going on here?
Yeah, really interesting stuff. Again, kind of the opposite of what most expect with these landfalling systems, but it all has to do with the wind direction and whether you have onshore or offshore winds. So here we are earlier this afternoon, Cat 4 making landfall. Now Tampa and Tampa Bay, north of the system, with the counterclockwise winds, you have that offshore flow. So what was happening is the winds from Tampa away from shore and out into the ocean. So that is why the water levels there actually dropped. Meanwhile, you go center of the storm and point south. That's where you have that onshore flow. So for Fort Myers down towards all of that being pushed indoors. If you're in the system, they start away many times, but if you're at the center and then point south, that's the onshore flow where the winds from the center are pushing the water into the coastline. Now, I was looking for the Fort Myers area. They also have their up here in about an hour or so. So again, the storm surge threat there still very much ongoing.
So much to consider with the storm with you in just a few minutes.
Cody Johnson? Yep. Ben Williams? Kyle Erickson? Were you? Kyle.
Joshua Hassan. Keith Wales.
What the fuck?
Dude, that's some fucking alien shit.
No, I've been seeing that all over the internet though.
Hello, Matthew. How are you?
Oh, hi. Fine, thank you. Yeah, so
My camera is not it's not working this morning at the moment, which I didn't notice until now. I led with that. I'm on my I'm actually mobile at the moment, so I'll get that working. But yeah, Milton is hitting. It's actually the surge is coming in. My sister is down there. She's in one of those big high rises. They think that they're going to be safe. I've ridden out a category 3 in Florida, and I can tell you that riding out anything more than a category 3, oh, I guess I am working kind of here. Okay. Riding anything more than a category 3 is not recommended.
No, it looks crazy. We've been following. I mean, it's, we also watch a lot of property shows in Florida, around the Hamptons and all that kind of stuff, and look at the values of the properties. And then you just think, when this is getting to be a regular occurrence, isn't it? These serious hurricanes. This is supposed to be the worst in 100 years. I don't know if it is, but it definitely looks serious.
Well, I mean, that's what they're saying. It's very hard to tell. They always say these kinds of things, so we won't really know. But it does look really bad. We'll see. It is absolutely will have an effect on voter turnout. Of course, I think voting is in like 28 days or 20 something days. So we have North Carolina that's completely, not completely actually. My family's there; they're totally fine. But parts of North Carolina are completely trashed. You're going to have now Florida that's in really bad shape, and this is going to affect stuff, and it affects the world markets as well. I don't know if you saw, but Iran is now, it looks like they're going to probably make an announcement that they already have nuclear capabilities. They have a nuclear weapon. So now we have, Israel and Iran both nuclear. Israel is actually not supposed to have nukes either. They stole them years ago from the U.S. in an espionage thing, and they're not supposed to have, neither country is supposed to have nukes. Now they both have them, and that's just going to send, I think, things, I don't know. I mean, it could maybe make them stop, but probably it won't. And then we have the markets that are going off as well. I don't know. You probably saw China printed up 500 billion yuan. For economic for basically propping up the stock market and the housing market. That's like 70 billion.
Yeah, we saw. I don't know. Are you with where you are? Are you able to share? Am I able to share screen or not?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just jump in and do that because I was looking at the China FXI. Just the share screen. Okay. There we go. So hopefully you can see that chart.
Yes.
Good. Well, this is the China FXI, which is an ETF in Hong Kong. It basically comprises the 50 large cap stocks, all sorts of stocks in China, but it's through the Hong Kong stock market. And we can see here basically that we got this massive pump higher in prices, obviously with that massive stimulation package that they had. There's still some uncertainty about the details of that. I think that's one of the reasons for the sell-off. Also, obviously, there are some negative signs here about the China market, about this ETF. Clearly, there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of insider trading goes on, by the way. So when you see these big moves, sometimes it's even, people taking advantage even before the news hits the wires. But interestingly, we've seen some kind of...
And remember, last week we had like a couple of 9 and 10% days on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So there you go.
They're massive. They're massive. But, over the term of this thing, it's actually had up to 40% days, not recently, but in its past. So 10% could be seen as modest in context. But obviously, for us, it's pretty serious, yeah. But we can see here this is looking over a long-term chart, but from 2021, where we had the high in this ETF. It's actually not performed particularly well. It's actually a lot lower than it was, despite all this massive stimulation for the market. You can see here hidden bearish divergence, and that's telling you that the price is likely to turn lower from here. And we came from massively overbought RSI here, and so this was a perfect selling opportunity. And this is always the case, as we always say, buy the rumor, sell the news. So when the news came out of this big stimulation package, then obviously it pumped. But that's the time to sell. Once that news hits the wires, it's time to sell. So that was the time to sell. We had indicators to support it, multiple indicators to support it. And it looks as though there's a real chance it could head lower. So longer term, we've got an overhead resistance, which is way, way overhead. And shorter term, we also have an underlying support here. So I suspect for the time being, it will stay within those boundaries. But if it were to break below support, then it could head much, much lower. Again, obviously, if it headed above resistance overhead. But right now, we've got that hidden bearish divergence in place, which is telling us that it's likely to be further downward movement on prices. So if we look at the other markets, and we'll flip through the various markets, they're not doing too badly at the moment. And this is, remember, this is off the backdrop of the Iran attack on Israel. As you say, I'm not quite sure. Maybe they're having pause for thought with the fact.
Hopefully. I mean, it's like those two, they're going to just nuke you. They're going to bomb each other into existence. 90 million people in Iran, a lot less million people in Israel. Nobody wants either. Well, maybe somebody. Most of the world does not want either of them to bomb themselves into oblivion. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, hopefully we'll have something. I have no idea, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, Israel did do just a token response last time. Don't forget.
Well, they keep assassinating people. I mean, the token is kind of, I'm sure if Iran could assassinate their head guys in Israel, they probably would. Israel's able to assassinate their guys. They just assassinate people. So, I mean.
But bear in mind, Iran is sponsoring these proxies like Hezbollah, Hamas, etc. And it's the leaders of these organizations which are much easier to target than people in Iran.
Right.
Or
but if you want to call that a token response, I mean, okay, fine. But you know what I mean? They're both not stopping. Somebody's got to stop sooner or later.
Yeah. When I said token response, I wasn't talking about that specifically. I was talking about the response to the last major attack by Iran, which was hundreds of warheads, missiles fired at Israel. Their Iron Dome seemed to protect them, but Israel's response was very, very measured. When you take them, when you bear in mind the magnitude.
Well, I mean, if you think that the assassination of the guy that was negotiating peace is a token response, then that's what I'm saying. I mean, okay, fine, if you want to call that a token response, but I mean, they assassinated the one guy that was actually negotiating peace. So if you want to call that a token response, okay, but if you keep assassinating everybody.
Yeah. Anyway, moving back to the markets.
Yeah.
So we definitely see potential downside here. So I think from risk reward perspective, it's looking reasonably good potential for further downside. So risk reward, I think, is quite good for potential short, or at least to maybe take profits after this massive pump. We say massive pump, but this big pump in the market that we've seen. So, as I say, longer term, this FXI ETF has not performed particularly well when you compare it with the likes of the American stock markets and so on. So, and it's highly volatile. So, for me, it's all about diversification again. Maybe you want a bit in here, but diversification is important, and you put the majority into safer markets, safer assets. Something like this will be a smaller part of any portfolio, but maybe for diversification purposes, maybe it's important. But they've got all these issues about trade wars. They've still got issues about potential confrontation with Taiwan, and trade wars with America, trade wars with Europe. So there's all sorts of stresses there, potential stresses that could drive the market lower. So I'm just saying, be cautious. Should be just a small part of any portfolio, I would think. I'm not sure whether to go straight into the Bitcoin. I think we'll just look at things like SPX first. SPX is all-time high, literally.
Big day yesterday.
Big.
It was kind of surprising. I thought, but then it keeps going up.
So I'll just flip it over to wave basis very briefly. We'll come back to SPX, but this is dollar index on the wave basis, which is the automated Elliott wave platform that I sometimes use. Interestingly, it's actually got a similar wave count to my own, and I actually structure my own wave counts before I even look at this these days. But we've basically had, potentially it's telling us they're expecting potentially much higher for the US dollar. This is on their neutral outlook. So we've had an A wave up from this low point here, A wave up, B wave down. We're pushing basically higher on dollar index. So higher on dollar index is basically bad for risk assets. So we may be at a bit of an inflection point for risk assets. When I say at, maybe close to it. I still believe we've got higher to go. So we will flip back to SPX and see, and Bitcoin and so on, and see potentially how much higher. So we may have a correction down on the dollar index, which will push the risk assets higher. But I think this is just telling us that longer term, there is danger there. The clouds are gathering, that US dollar is expected to go much, much higher. That's usually a sign of concern in the markets and people taking money out of risk assets like Bitcoin, like the S&P 500, putting it into safe haven assets like US treasuries, which obviously boosts the US dollar. And that's why you'd see potentially the US dollar heading up here. And I think that's what's going to happen. But bear in mind, it's A, it's B, the next move up is C. I think after that, we get a turn down. We'll just stay on weight basis for a moment, just to look at the various ones, and then I'll go back to my own count. I like this because, again, it's the automated count, SPX, so the S&P 500. It's basically telling us we just reached all-time highs, remember? And look at it. It's basically, they've labeled it as wave 3 with a question mark. It's not guaranteed yet. In fact, this little collection of waves here within wave 3 looks all a bit crumpled to me, a little bit tight. But basically, it's potentially the end of a wave 3 here. So following wave 3, obviously you get a wave 4 pullback. So maybe we're seeing a short-term top on the S&P 500. But if it's wave 3, you get wave 4 down, then you get wave 5 to new all-time highs yet again. So that means the story's not over yet. I think we've got higher to go in the markets. We'll probably move away. I might as well, while we're here, I suppose, I'll look at Solana, which is one of my main ones. Again, a wave 3 here. We're working somehow on some kind of wave 4 back. And then we'll probably get a wave 5 to new all-time highs on Solana. As I say again, we have heard from people in the markets, influential people, some big whales, saying they're targeting $1,000 for Solana. Who knows? It's possible. But
I think it's very possible for Solana to do 1,000.
Yeah, I think it is possible. So you see, I'm expecting further lows. So Israel, I think there will be some response. I think Israel would have to save face and make some response. But let's hope, as you say, it's a muted response. And then that would give the markets room for maneuver and give them that push up they need. And that's expected to take Solana and Bitcoin and all the rest to new all-time highs here. So if that were to happen, we're currently 139 on Solana. So you're talking almost 100% higher just to reach the previous all-time high. Much higher anyway to reach the previous all-time high, which was back before this one. It was actually 258 or something. So if I scroll back, you'd probably see it. If that's it there. Yeah, 258, that's the previous all-time high. So this move will be expected to take us at least to that 258. Maybe we get a double top. So maybe the next move up, wave 5, would take us that 258 double top. And then you get the big market sell-off. That's a possibility. I won't bother looking at Bitcoin here. I'll flip back to my own charts. So we'll just look at Solana here where we are. Again, it's a consolidation of some sort. So it is looking like we are going to get that push. Got all these divergences in place, which have actually signaled every single move that we've had correctly in the right direction. And I've traded this and I've posted on X where I'm going with my trades. It's really good. So
Yeah.
right now, I think we do still have lower to go to finish this consolidation. It's a sideways consolidation overall. So when it's complete, we should push, as I said, to new all-time high, probably at least to equal it at 258. So I think we've got some amazing future ahead, but we still could get a nasty final sell-off before that happens. So do be careful if you're in there with leverage, because a nasty sell-off could wipe people out. So just be very, very careful. I'm watching the market very, very closely. I've been shorting, as you're probably aware. I shorted again this morning from 140 something. I actually already closed it at 138 or something. So I'm just scalping the market right now to the short side, because I still think when Israel come out with a response, whatever it is, I think the market will take an initial sell-off again. So I do think we've got some short-term downside coming. But in the meantime, the buy the rumor, sell the news, I think we're just basically gradually floating a little bit higher on a lot of the markets. We can see here there's a lot of green in the markets. So we are floating a little bit higher. I posted dollar yen just because I see it's a great proxy to the risk trades. So dollar yen basically goes the same direction as risk. So when it's going higher, Bitcoin is usually going higher, S&P going higher, etc., etc. So we've seen this good, what is still an ABC higher, I think. I think maybe we've still not quite finished going higher. We may have a little bit higher to go with dollar yen. But being ABC, we should then get another push down to give us a sell-off in the market. So, but then after that, maybe another push higher. But I'm just saying, I'm concerned that there's risks there. There's risks apparent in the charts that are telling us it's a potential downside. So just moving on to Bitcoin, the big one. Again, a little bit like Solana, we've got a long, big move up, and then we've got this consolidation, sideways consolidation. Right now, we're right in the middle of that consolidation. So you can see the price now, 61,000. The bottom of consolidation was 48,000 or 49,000, and the top of it was 73. So we're right in the middle. So from risk reward perspective, it's pretty risky. Basically, if you jump in the middle of a range, you've got 50-50 risk reward is not attractive. So I would look maybe at shorter term charts, and we can perhaps look at that to see where the next direction is before we take a position. But as I say, I think my bias is downward. So if I go to the 4-hour chart, I think it's useful to do that. If I go to the 4-hour chart, we can see basically, I think we've had ABC higher. I think we've basically there or thereabouts maybe finished the first wave down. We're going to get a correction higher. It's all going in line with expectations, in line with my trades. I closed out short positions once again. It's moving up quite nicely, but the risk is the downside. So on a shorter time frame, we haven't got that massive risk right up to 73. The risk on the shorter time frame is closer by. It's 64,000 overhead, and underneath it's 59,000, somewhere around there. But looking at the counts and looking at divergences, etc., I think the next major move is further to the downside, and that's why I've got the arrows in here. So there's a downside pressure there, and there's upside pressure from here. So I'm expecting potential downward movement, and so I'm looking for short trades. So I'm looking to sell the peaks. This is in the short term. I will look to sell peaks when they occur. So we're moving up at the moment, but I reckon we're always speculating. We've been speculating for some time. When is Israel going to do their response? There is going to be a response, I think, no doubt about it. And when they do, the market will sell. No, I'm absolutely certain of that. But if it's a muted response, then the market could rebound very, very quickly after.
Yep.
And also there could be another major push at a peace treaty, because there's been a lot of turmoil now around the Middle East. Israel have pushed forward, but I think at some point there will be some sort of peace initiative that will allow the markets time to move forward, and hopefully we'll get a nice bright autumn or fall, as you call it, after all these hurricanes, after the election, after the Israel-Middle East trouble. Maybe we get some peace in there, even in Russia-Ukraine, who knows. But I think at some point we will push all-time highs for these assets. So I think we need to have that in mind. But obviously, it's early days to jump in when the market's still got all these pressures to the downside. We've still got interest rate pressures. So that'll be the next big thing to look forward to. What are the Fed going to do next? I mean, they lowered rates of percentage points. Have you any thoughts on that, Bruce?
I think they're going to lower them again. What are they meeting on the 31st? I think that, it's a very political organization. That should start to become very obvious to people. I don't even know whether you can say whether they want to or not. They're going to. They're going to lower interest rates.
Yeah, it looks that way. The markets are actually pricing in about 80% chance of lowering rates.
Yeah.
As I say, I don't quite understand how they do that in the face of inflation, which is actually still way above target.
Oh, it's way up there, man. And if we have a spike in oil prices, if we go back over $80 or even worse, then we're really in trouble. So that's another reason why I think that, and I was saying it yesterday on the show, I don't think that we're going to have, I could be totally wrong, I don't think we're going to have a massive response here from Israel, because I think there's a lot of pressure to, hey, let's not, because oil prices go up above $100 or something like this, and then all bets are off. You got, parts of the U.S. in total chaos from these storms. It's also burning in Wyoming, God only knows why that started. So now we have Wyoming is burning. You have Florida that's in a mess. People, like 200 people dead or something. It's crazy. Now we have this massive storm coming in. And when Florida goes under, man, it goes under. I've been there. That a couple of hurricanes I was there for. One of them I was right down on the beach. And that I probably shouldn't have stayed. And another one I spent out a little further inland. But we didn't have power for 3 weeks at least.
I was actually in Florida myself during a hurricane quite a few years ago now with my children. And we had it was quite frightening. Lightning as well striking everywhere all around. The children were screaming with fear. It was quite frightening, to be honest. So it can be.
Well, and it just takes a long time to get everything going again. You have all the linesmen down there. I played that short clip. Trump was letting guys stay at, I guess, Mar-a-Lago was what it was, for free, which was really nice of him to do. But, those guys are going to be working long days to get it up there, but it takes time.
Yeah, there is a saying I've heard many times, man proposes, God disposes. So we can have all of our plans, but at the end of the day, God is way more powerful. And, you see that when you see these massive natural occurrences, see how powerful they really are and how they can upset the plans that we have for everything. So we've got all our plans for elections and markets and trades and whatever, but these things are very powerful and not under our control. So, interesting. Here's the oil, by the way, you just mentioned. So oil so far actually does appear from the low here to have 3 waves higher. Now, you might be right saying about this muted Israel response. If that were to happen, then oil price would probably go quite a bit further down. Especially if they're lowering rates, it must mean there are signs of a slowing US economy, surely. So if we've got signs of a slowing US economy, less consumption of oil, and don't forget the Saudis and OPEC are likely to actually increase oil production in December. So if that's the case, have more oil on the market, less demand for it. So surely oil price has got real potential to dip. So if this is a 3-wave move higher, then you should then get a 5-wave impulse to the downside, lower than this previous low here at $65. Bearing in mind we're currently $74.40 on oil, 65. It's quite a big percentage fall, and it would go below that if this is if we get an impulse to the downside. So that's the situation with oil. It's looking at the moment as though potentially we have topped out for the time being, and we could push lower. So that would basically be telling us that probably US economy is beginning to slow, and that would be why they're lowering rates. And of course, the Fed do have more information to hand than we have. So you'd like to assume that they are making the right decisions based on the information they have and that we actually don't have. So at the moment, as I say,
they have a lot more information than us. We would like to think they're making the right decisions.
Yeah, I can't understand how they can be lowering rates when you got inflation so high. But as I say, they must have information to hand to be influencing them in that direction. just flip round very briefly around a couple of other assets because people are always asking about XRP. Now we were at the top of the range. This is a bit of a parallel range we had here, and I said there's pressure to the downside because this is what's called a bear flag. You got the flagpole down, you got a flag waving in the wind higher. It actually looks like some kind of ABC move higher. So you expect them to be an impulse to the downside. So XRP is also telling us a short-term downside to come. So that should take us below this low point here. And yesterday I actually put in some targets quite a lot lower. So XRP still has potential for quite a bit of a correction lower. In fact, a lot of these assets have potential for a fairly hefty correction to the downside. This is the target range between 33 and 43 cents on XRP, and we're currently 52. So that is a big potential. So
that'll make people cry. A lot of people, they really think that Ripple, they really think XRP is going to really move upward, and it might. But they can do whatever they want with that currency. It's not like there's no restrictions on them.
Yeah, and as you say, they're pumping an awful lot of new tokens into the market. We did clarify that, didn't we, a few days ago?
Yeah.
That it's actually the beginning of each month that I think there's $500 million. So $500 million worth of token, isn't it?
I don't know if it's $500 million token or $500 million worth. I'm not clear on that.
Yeah, I think it's 1 billion tokens, $500 million worth.
I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. Now they're very popular. I mean, I talked to my my friends, just on the soccer field with the kids and stuff like that, and yeah, they buy the Ripple, they buy the XRP. So, but you can just, and here's the thing, yeah, I mean that's the release schedule, but they can do anything that they want. But still, $1 billion, $1 billion new dollars on the market's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. Here's gold, by the way. So I'm actually just checking on that. I wanted to check. It doesn't matter right now, but I want to check how many XRP are released each month to be sure. But I'm pretty sure it's $500 million worth, roundabout. It would be just over $500 million if it's 1 billion tokens. It's a lot of tokens to add to the market, to add to supply every month. Anyway, gold here is looking like a nice ABC down. You can really quite clearly see it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because it's all overlapping, and with a 5-wave move you're not allowed to overlap, so it's clearly 5, 3, 5 of some sort, even if it's 3 here and 5. So we would expect new all-time highs to come on gold reasonably soon. We're 2,617 right now. The previous all-time high was 2,685, so we'd expect a reasonable move up to take us to new all-time highs once again. And as we've said many times, markets move in, the waves are fractal. In other words, they're waves inside waves inside waves. When you look at gold on the longer term, this is just a smaller time frame we're looking at right now. On the longer term, there's still more upside to come for gold by the look of it on a bigger scale than this. So I still think gold is definitely has its part to play in anybody's well-diversified portfolio. So definitely, I know Bruce has got some great relationships and ways for people to get exposure to gold and to precious metals.
And it's all about DCA. It's just like anything else. DCA in, guys. That's what you do. You set, gold's one of those things. Maybe you just buy a little bit every week or a little bit every month. And, whether even if it corrects a bit here and there, if we stay on this monetary system, which I used to say is going to crash all the time, and maybe it will, but if we stay on it, gold is going to continue to go up in the long term.
When Bruce says DCA, I mean, you can just do it a simple way like that. You can just have a monthly direct debit to buy some gold every month, no matter what. And that's may even be the best way. Or, I mean, the way I prefer, because I'm very active and monitor the markets very closely, I actually like DCA. It's an amazing strategy, but I actually do it in more of a managed way. So I look to buy dips in the market rather than just buy regular time intervals. I actually always wait for a pullback in the market and buy the dip. So
that is indeed the way to do it for sure. And if you're buying gold futures or something like that, then it's easier for most people out there, though. If they're just buying gold, like with our club at Cost Metals or something like that, then it's a little harder to do that. But no, absolutely, DCA, buy the dips.
Yeah, fantastic. So
You're doing great. I was watching. So make sure to follow Matt, guys. MD Trade. He's at MD Trade, and he's posting his trades out on his X account as well. He's doing
yeah,
really
so
great.
I have to check. But again, I spoke with the broker that I trade with. They actually thought I must be doing something dishonest because the returns were so great. There's so few losing trades. So, for example, in the last 100 trades, I think there've only been like 2 losses, something like that. I'm very, very cautious with my trades. I don't like taking risk. I'm very risk averse. It does mean that a lot of my trades are only relatively small profits because I'll move my stop loss into profit very early on, and then I get stopped out. But at least you get stopped out for a profit, and that never hurt anybody. So, but occasionally the market does continue, and you get some nice big trades in your favor, and it means you get very, very, very few losses if you do a good risk reward strategy, buying dips or selling. Buying dips or selling peaks. It works very, very well, especially just a couple of simple indicators that we often talk about on the show, and you can make it a very successful strategy. So, I'm thankful it turned out well. So, at the moment, again, the word is caution. We don't forget, whatever you do, don't forget we're ahead of a likely reprisal by Israel. No matter what the severity of it is, it's probably going to affect the markets initially in a negative way. So be very, very careful out there. I'll be watching for that. As I say, I'm looking to, at the moment, my bias is to sell peaks in the market. Apart from gold, obviously, I'm looking here to buy a dip. But in general for the markets, because don't forget, gold is a kind of safe haven. It's a place people go to protect money in times of trouble and challenging times. So that's why gold is probably a great time to buy the dips. But with the assets like Bitcoin, which are pure risk assets, really, even Bitcoin is still, even though it's talked about as a safe haven, it's not yet really attained that status. So it's still a risk asset. It moves with the stock markets in general, but more volatile. It's like stock markets on steroids, effectively. So they're still highly volatile assets. The risk is if something happens with Israel or anything actually geopolitically or economically, then the risk to Bitcoin at the moment is probably to the downside. So I'm being cautious, and I would recommend people just be very careful at the moment. But if we get this Israel thing out of the way, then maybe that'll be time to reassess everything. And that's what we need to do. Like the Fed, be data dependent, reassess your position when there's a change in the market. Don't be like a dinosaur, stick in your old ways and die. Just be prepared to reassess, be prepared to change your your ideas on the market. If the circumstances, the environment changes, you've got to be flexible. And that's one big key to successful trading. So anyway, things, I hope people, obviously it's a terrible situation in Florida. I hope that people remain safe as best as they can. And the same Middle East, and the same with everywhere in the world. Stay safe. Yeah, let's catch up again soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt. Awesome report.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, everybody. Bye for now.
Cheers. The great Matt Dixon there with the Market Watch report on the Impact Money Show. I'll tell you what, it's one of those things, trading, only 5% of people make money trading. Okay. And when he talks about being risk averse, that is one of the most important things. Sir David the Great, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh man, your timing is just impeccable.
That's how I do it.
That's how you roll.
Yeah. The universe works for me in a sense.
That's right. The universe is answering to Sir David Porter. So we just got through with our Market Watch report with the great Matt Dixon. I was driving. It's funny. I got in the car. I'm here at the ice rink early with Bella. Got in the car this morning. I thought, man, I'm sure glad I'm not in Florida. And I don't mean to laugh at anybody.
Oh, no.
We've been there, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Riding out those storms.
2004, when those 3 or 4 hit in a row.
Right.
Knocked out power for weeks.
And
knocked
then
out power freeze.
The hot days
Hot.
followed.
Right? I remember, gosh, so I went out one of the times our place got just smashed in. And so I went and stayed with mom and dad out there in Wellington for a few weeks. And I was so happy because, of course, they had that nice big pool and you could just hop in there and cool off because it was hot.
It was really hot.
It was really hot.
And there was no power, so you took a cold shower. But as soon as you got out of that nice cold shower, it was muggy. You were sticky. It was pretty uncomfortable.
And mom even had an air conditioner, I think, at least in her room with the thing. So if you were really dying, you could go out there. And we just grilled and camped out by the pool. Remember, Junior was around back then. We had this huge, mom and dad had this huge boxer,
120 pounds.
120-pound boxer, biggest boxer I ever saw. And he had the biggest personality too.
Oh yeah, big face, expressive face.
He was really something else. So yeah, we've been going through it all. I think and I can look up here at some of the title of the show just to give you weather manipulation, Iran and Israel nukes, China and U.S. cash, how global events shape the financial markets on the Impact Money Show. Will Helene and Milton affect the voter turnout? Do you believe the HAARP is being used as a weapon, and how to make Congress work for us? I'll tell you, the way we make Congress work for us is we close the Federal Reserve.
That's a power move right there.
Because if we don't close the Federal Reserve, the Congress is always going to work for whoever is writing their checks.
That's true.
Whoever pays you is who you work for.
Unfortunately, that must fall in line with all of these people.
It is what it is. It's like, you know what I mean? And sure, you get a contract and then maybe you're not working for that person. You just have a contract. But if they don't renew your contract, you know what I mean? So, but I mean, these guys are in a direct, like if they really go against what the Fed wants, what the Federal Reserve wants, then it could be major consequences. Maybe the Fed doesn't give them the blank check to fund all of their little baby projects that they like funding.
Yeah, and they're not even baby projects. They're like world-changing projects.
They're like world-changing projects. Actually, the great Thomas Massey, who I have in my thing every day, he follows me now. He must have seen the show a couple of times. He says, "And the Fed." Thomas Massey is all right. I'll follow that guy. He puts me on his show every day. But Thomas Massey puts out a post yesterday because the U.S. There will be consequences for Iran. We told them there will be consequences, and he says, Congress or the executive branch rather is supposed to come to Congress to attack a sovereign nation that hasn't attacked us, And so anyway, we'll see what happens. But he's one of the only guys that is just out there, just spreading the truth, talking the truth.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of bravery, apparently, and I definitely appreciate that he's outspoken about these things.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot. I mean, guy, say what you want. Maybe he did have to do with it, or maybe it didn't. But I mean, he lost his wife. It is worth me just sharing this tab real quick while I'm talking about it. Let me pull it up here for a second. The great Thomas Massey. Just to remind everybody, on August 8th, a few months ago, Rhonda and I, which of course his wife passed, they never did really release the results of the autopsy. He didn't have them for a while. I know that. So I'm not really sure, but it did happen right after he did this. He said, I flew to Maine. We had a lovely dinner with Tucker Carlson. The next day I sat down with Tucker for this interview. She was off camera in the studio with us during the interview, but this is what he talked about. I mean, this is all the stuff you're not supposed to talk about right here. Rep. Thomas Massey doesn't care what you think of him, which is pretty great. Where does the U.S. debt end? You guys should go over to his page, Rep. Thomas Massey, and look at this. Why Massey voted 15 times against funding Israel. AIPAC, talks about AIPAC. He told everybody that all the Republican congressmen have an AIPAC minder. This is like Russia, This is like China minders. This is like everything you grew up learning about communism. This is what we have going on basically right now with AIPAC. It's out of control. And actually, AIPAC, the AZC, the American Zionist Council, was the original, and then they turned into AIPAC, but that was what JFK had tried to make, and I think did make register as foreign agents. And then, of course, same thing happened to him. Area 51, they talked about Massey's relationship with Trump, kill switches in cars, which everybody, it's funny, I like put out a post about that a while ago, and I think they tried to community note it. Mike Johnson in the deep state, how Massey got in politics, living off the grid. Anyway, he's worth a follow. He's one of the only guys in Congress that's doing everything. He's talking about the debt limit here. He wears this on his lapel every day.
Cool.
Right?
Yeah.
If there was one guy, I don't work for anybody, but if there was one person that I was going to work for, I could probably work for Tom Smith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And here's what he talks about, what I was just saying. The Constitution does not permit the executive branch to unilaterally commit an act of war against a sovereign nation that hasn't attacked the United States. Now, of course, nobody cares. They'll probably do what they want anyway. My consensus is that they are not going to respond heavy. I could be wrong, but I think that if they respond really heavy and Iran sends over 1,000 or more thousands of missiles, which they will, first of all, they're going to be hurting a lot over there in Israel. And second of all, the markets are all going to just crash into oblivion. And everybody's going to wonder why Camilla and Biden got us into World War III. And that's not good for the election. So I think there's a lot of pressure on them not to do it. So meanwhile, Trump's not in office. He's like, go get him. Go hit him hard now. Of course, if he was in office, maybe he would still be saying it, but he would probably be saying, hey guys, let's stop this. Like he always does, stop the killing. Who knows? But while he's not in office, he's like, go get him.
That's always refreshing, right? To hear someone say, let's end the war. Let's stop the killing.
Stop the killing.
That's the worst part.
It's the worst part. Everybody really wants the same things like we talk about. So, and those people, they've been fighting for a long time. So anyway, while you're here, I wanted to touch on our favorite new meme coin.
Yeah, that's what empowered me to jump on the show this morning. I was pretty pumped. I mean, I think that they got a good program going. It's really empowering to see the revolutionary dog coins take a leap into the monetary revolution.
Everyone loves the dogs, right? I mean, everybody loves the dogs. They all love the dogs. So when you look at
irresistible.
They are irresistible. So it's actually looking like a pretty nice entry point right now. I just looked over at the charts. They can move a lot. They can move a lot up and down. So pretty fun. They can be pretty fun here. But this one's Sulky. Sulky the dog. This is a community takeover. Okay. And so what that means is that a lot of the maybe the hands that wouldn't have been so strong have moved out of the market. Okay. So you have Sulky the dog. It's a play on Solana, right? You have Solana, and Sulky the dog. He's a cute little purple dog here, and it is really capturing the hearts and the minds of people.
It takes some experience to realize when the proper entry point is. So I went ahead and aped in. I joined this community. We're going to elevate this thing to all-time highs, and we're really gonna boost it. We're gonna boost it up.
We are, and when you look at something like this, when you look at an asset like this that has a lower market cap, and you think, okay, so even moving to $1 million. First of all right, let's look at how many holders that they have, right? And so you start to say, okay, so they've been climbing now. Let me just look here. I'm just trying to give a good, how many holders? I think it's over 700 holders, 731 holders. So it keeps getting higher, okay? And a lot of times what happens with tokens like this, of course, is you have guys now that they bought as it went down, and they bought in really cheap, and now they're taking some profits, okay? And that's healthy. That's healthy for the whole ecosystem. And then we bring in more people. As long as we keep adding wallets, that's the most important thing, because the more people are in on the more holders that we have that are in on Sulky, the better off we are.
Yeah,
and
the more we can achieve.
The more we can achieve, exactly. So community takeover, they have a great community. They also have a strong leadership team and group. They reached out to us. They wanted to get us involved, and so we're excited about it. We're excited about where it's going, especially from here. We're really excited about where it goes from here. So all good stuff. Sulky the dog, that's dollar Sulky, SOLKIE. It's Sulky the dog .com is the website. I can pull that up here again. Sulky the dog.
It's really game changing.
It is. It's game changing. And if we do 5 or 10x from here, which, guys, not financial advice, right? These are all high risk assets. But if you look at the number of people involved, and then you think, okay, where can this thing go? And 5 or 10x from here is going to be, okay, what market cap? And you're saying, all right, do you think that'll reach it? Well, yes. Well, 5 or 10x on your money is freaking outstanding, right? That's outstanding. And a lot of these will do 100 or 1,000x.
Yep. That is also game changing.
That is also game changing. So,
yeah,
all good stuff. Amazing. I know you have a big day ahead of you. I do too. I'm happy that you hopped on. Your timing was absolutely impeccable. So
yeah, it just threw me in the screen too. I
did
the link and I was live.
You are live. Well, always a pleasure. We'll talk a little bit later. I know we were going to talk last night. I was just fried, and some of the stuff with the kids. So the kids and I were doing another play. Penelope and I, we both got star roles in another play, which is, I wasn't going to do it. We were going in to try out, and I'm going to let her try out. And I'm telling my wife, telling Emmy, I'm not going to do this one, this and that. And Penelope looks up. She doesn't look up. She kind of looks up though, and I can see her kind of like, oh, I'm like, oh, don't worry, I'm like, I'll do it with you.
It's hard. You can't say no to the little sweethearts.
I mean, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, it's a much cooler position to be in, a much more powerful position to be in to play with your father, who has a bit of experience acting, and So yeah, we're in it again. Bella is a bit busy now with her school. She's singing a lot, so it didn't make sense for her, but pretty excited about it.
Very cool. Have fun with that.
Yeah, man, will do. Great to have you, and we'll talk a bit later. And let's pump it.
Let's pump it up.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.